Hello, welcome back. Tracie Daily with Checkmate, chapter 38. We're nearly there, we're nearly at the finale. And what do you do when you're at the finale of a book? You get it edited. When you've done your first draft, you get it edited. And you get as much information as you can about advertising the living hell out of it. In which case, if you've enjoyed my life, then share it, review it, love it, share it some more. At least talk about it. Talking of which, you'll then need some people who will support that call, and you'll get advice, or try and find advice any way you can. So, go back a few chapters. I believe it was chapter 25. I gave a shout out to Lacy Lieffers, and I've just come across her Facebook page. So, it is full, absolutely jam-packed of advertising and editing advice and information. Basically, if you're self-published or if you're an author, you need this page. Okay, it's valuable. So, facebook.com/lacy.lieffers, www.facebook.com/lacy.lieffers, and you will find it, or simply type her name in online with Black Fox Publishing? Black Fox Marketing, not Black Fox Publishing. Black Fox Marketing, Lacy Lieffers, you can't miss it. And everything is set out perfectly. And if I was going to design something, I'd want somebody to do it exactly like their videos and posts, because it's absolutely awesome. I don't put my face out there, but if you do, this is the way you're going to want to do it, because it's really, really good. So go and take a look. Anyway, chapter 38. Let's carry on from there. You know where we're up to? Here we go. My solicitor was sat in a big room. She'd refused to question me. Although I'd asked her to, she said she couldn't. Apparently there were other cases going on, and we just had to sit and wait our turn. I guess I presumed we'd go into another room and everyone would be waiting there, but I was wrong. We were all to wait in the same room together. MJ came in and immediately pointed at me. There he is, hide me, hide me. I remained seated. She was led away to a quiet room with her solicitor. I kept my eyes on the table in front of me. She was playing a class act and trying to get a reaction. When she was gone, I glanced at my solicitor. She said nothing. My barrister turned up. He was a fellow with cerebral palsy. I recognised the condition immediately, because it was what contributed to Pam's paraplegia. It was a condition two of my close friends had. He hunched when he walked. You're lucky they didn't choose a Crown Court. Most they can sentence you to here is 5 years, he said. It didn't help. You think I'm going down? You think I did this? I asked him honestly. He shook my hand. Not allowed to talk about it, he said. What was wrong with these people? I was on my own. I'd been quizzing myself for weeks with every little thing. MJ might make up, blow out of proportion, or alter to get me into trouble. I was ready, but I wasn't perfect. I needed a persona or a confidence or a niche or something to tune into. Who did I know that was clever, confident, and who would twist words easily? My father. No way, I told myself. I'm not going to lie, I'm innocent. I never hit, raped, or abused her in any way. Okay, I said some harsh shit during an argument, but that's about it. Yeah, but can you do what Wenzel can? I asked myself. At that point I saw myself as an 8-year-old child making eye contact with him, as he spun me around by my arm in a painful lock and threw my mind into him. He was looking at me and he was enjoying the pain. He knew he was untouchable. Could I have that control, that confidence? I hated him and I hated myself. But I needed that confidence, and he was the only person I could think of who'd get me the words and clarity of them without stuttering, without looking nervous, which I knew they'd interpret as guilt, to get through the next hour. And if I did get sent down for something I'd not done, who better than Wenzel's mind to sink deeply into to survive it? I just hoped I had enough strength to find myself again afterwards. I stood up and looked around the room. I own this room, and everyone in it, I thought. Sit down, my solicitor said. I ignored her for a few seconds. She may speak when I tell her, I thought. I'm nipping out for a cigarette, I said, hearing my father's voice. His polite sing-song words told you what was happening instead of asked. I smoked outside and walked back down the halls. My barrister had followed me in case I ran off. Relax, it'll be okay, he said. I smiled at him. It'll be better than okay, I told him. I was walking back in before I'd finished the sentence. We were called up and MJ took the stand claiming she was religious, lie number 1. She swore on the Bible. I ignored her and kept my eyes to the corner of the room. MJ started softly. When explaining anything about me, she stamped her feet and panted. I didn't react. Then she worked herself up to shouting again and again. I didn't react. The judge asked her to explain calmly and clearly. The case was to see if I'd intentionally broken the injunction. I hadn't. It piqued on whether I could be expected to know MJ was in the bank at the time I walked in. However, MJ ranted about all her accusations, from times she claimed I attacked her, to rape, and apparently how my eyes had burnt red when she was leaving the bank. She thought that I was going to attack her. MJ's dad was in attendance, could have been a witness as he was at the bank that day. However, he refused to give a statement. I respected him for that. He knew his daughter as well as I did. The judge asked MJ why she had seen fit to add me on Facebook after applying for an injunction. MJ claimed she was dyslexic and didn't know what she was doing, yet she read the oath just fine. Finally, my barrister got up and asked about an account where MJ claimed she'd seen me through a window that day I was at college, and I had proof for it. Within minutes we established MJ possibly saw a man, with his back to the window, in the rain with a grey bag on his back. Apparently the man left after 10 minutes of standing motionless in the rain. We also established MJ doesn't like being questioned. So when my barrister asked, "Do you love Mr. Daly?" her response was, "No, rapist. Yes I do. What a stupid question, I hate him." To which my barrister replied, "Do you want to hurt Mr. Daly?" MJ simply exploded. "No, why would I? He's not important enough to hurt. Liar, you love me." She was asked to calm down by the judge, and I was called up. I answered everything calmly, after taking the non-religious version of the oath. I didn't look at MJ the entire time I was on the stand. I made eye contact with the judge and looked from her to the corner of the room and back again. I'd heard MJ's lies 100 times or more in my head, so her accusations were not fazing me anymore. Although I made a shocked expression each time they were brought up, I gave answers which always included a positive way in which I'd assisted her or helped her to assist herself, and where I couldn't, I explained the reason why I couldn't be guilty of such things. For example, Wenzel being overly controlling, and therefore I couldn't be. I went on further to explain the hardest questions were those where I couldn't provide an answer. How can a person provide something that they didn't do? If something has happened, there is generally some sort of evidence. If the event hasn't, then there is none. The judge commented that doesn't always mean the event didn't occur. To which I replied, which is why I'm at a loss trying to prove my innocence. The first I knew of them was in that big list of papers I was handed, other than the bank event, which I immediately went to the police station about as soon as I'd informed my partner, and asked police to get CCTV footage, as I knew from the previous accusations she'd certainly make another one here, and it would prove I was nowhere near her. If I'd known she was in that bank, trust me, I'd have wanted nothing to do with it. I was seated, as there were no further questions. The judge rambled on in legal jargon, which I didn't understand. I was just waiting to hear, not guilty. I didn't just want to hear it, I needed to. Instead, I got, no action to be taken as there is no evidence to support the party's request for conviction. I'd zoned out, still waiting to hear a not guilty. Instead, the judge looked at me and said, "Will Mr. Daly be requesting compensation?" My solicitor looked at me. The shock on her face told me everything I needed to know about her beliefs. I didn't know how it worked. I presumed NJ would have to pay me, and that meant seeing her, and I didn't want that. My brain wouldn't work. The only way I could express myself was to look at the judge and say, "What? Do you want compensation?" she asked me again. "I want to go home. I want to be left alone," I replied. It was signed, and I left. I went straight to Pam's workplace. "We won. I'm going to see your dad," I said, giving her a hug. That night, Pam's brother and his little boy came over. The young lad played with Pam and wanted to play with me. I kept sending him away until I went to speak to Andy outside. I lit a smoke and we sat side by side on a bench in this beautiful garden. "How can I play with that kid?" I cried. "After all I've been accused of. I didn't do it, but the accusations. Who'd trust me around their kid?" I asked him. "His dad doesn't know," Andy told me. "Thanks, but that's not the point, man. If I was the kid's dad, I'd want to know, so I could make my own mind up," I said. "You're innocent," he told me. "Yeah, until when? Until next time they arrive." I chucked my pad at him. "I write down every move. When I go in, I'll write that I spoke to you and that I'm now around Pam. When the police took my phone, they asked who the kid was in the picture. I broke down. It was my mate's daughter, for fuck's sake. Andy touched my shoulder. I went in. I couldn't take the sympathy. I won't accept it. I'm stronger than that. I made my excuses and I left. My time got taken up with college, where I was doing a higher course in psychology, history, higher English and maths. Hope of going on to university. I wanted to become a therapist and help people like Angela, Nigel, David and countless others who'd helped me. I needed positive people around me and Pam wasn't it. Her sister had been looking after her as her parents had gone away when I got a call. "Get her now, she's tried to kill me." I was 20 minutes away and I ran all the way. When I arrived, everything was fine. Lucy was calm, opened the door and was polite. Pam had no injuries, wasn't out of breath and was sat watching TV just fine. "You okay?" I asked Lucia. "No, she's lying," she said. She went to Pam and told her a few home truths and then got upset herself. I sat with Pam for an hour, then left. During that hour I told her I didn't have any space in my life for negativity or silly dramas. I couldn't handle the stress. I had enough to last a lifetime. We'd already split up twice over silly things. I'd taken them as controlling mannerisms, or because she said stupid things I didn't like. I presumed would lead to complications further on. Either way, I knew I couldn't be around her as a friend, because I did actually love her. I just couldn't be with her. I told her we were done, I couldn't see her anymore, that I'd not been arrested in 2 months, which for me during the past year was amazing. I had therapy. I was doing good at college, I was surviving. I got a breakthrough with a place to live, a studio flat, ground floor that had a bit of a reputation. I was okay though, nobody bothered me. Maybe it had calmed down, or maybe because I kept myself to myself, I didn't know, but it was nice not to be in trouble. Angela was brilliant. I started looking forward to our appointments. She fought my corner in let form where I'd gone through all the crap with MJ. Angela was more than a therapist though. She was someone I trusted. That was rare for me, considering my past. I knew I had to do it this time properly or I'd never move on. I had to tell her everything. She laughed with me. She cried with me. Polite, friendly and professional throughout. I'd be lying if I said I could recall every session, or exactly what she did for me. She's the type of therapist to get in your head, twist all your thoughts upside down and inside out, make you question everything, and then guide you to believe in all the positives. And at the end, she'd tell you she did nothing. That you did it all, and you walk away believing it wholeheartedly. I went into those sessions a homeless, broken man accused of countless crimes with my own demons to fight and rotten teeth. I left each session more and more determined to change the world, to make a difference for me because I wanted to, because I deserved it. Money wasn't just a negative tool people used for control as I'd grown up believing. I deserved the job and I was more than capable of it. I wasn't a failure because my education sucked. I was a champion for learning anyway. I wasn't guilty because someone said I was. I was strong because I'd fought back the right way, without violence, without losing my mind. But we still had things to resolve. I had to tell her about my granddad. I'd killed him. My guilt lay there. I deserved every inch of punishment I dealt myself because I killed my granddad, and therefore I was as bad, if not worse, than my father. I told her the story knowing full well she'd see me differently, knowing she'd hate me, knowing I was useless. When I finished, she smiled. Not a little, "oh you poor thing" smile. Not a "I'm pretending to be happy but I'm really wondering what to say" smile. But a whacking big genuine grin. "Well done," she said, tipping her head forward slightly and fixing me with her eyes. Her hair fell forwards and she pushed it back subconsciously. I looked at the table. "Thank you." I'd woken up at home shaking after a nightmare where I was trying to find Alan, my granddad, and whenever I finally made it to the room he's in, I'd wake up in bed, and the cycle would repeat itself, till each time I would notice something in the room was a little off. I'd be more afraid each time I'd wake up and find him still asleep, and then I actually wake up for real and wonder if I'm still asleep. Is Alan dead? I downed some cold water and held the living room door open. "I'm sorry, Alan. I'm so sorry." I sat on the edge of my bed and held my head in my hands and I started to shake. This time I didn't try and calm it. I needed to feel this. My heart pounded, my adrenaline was flowing through me like wildfire. "No," I told myself out of habit. I knew what came next. "You're not 10 anymore," I told myself in an attempt to calm down. "Feel it," I yelled inside my head. Immediately I was back in front of my nan's sofa, flinging it over like it was nothing in my arms, like it was alight with the strength of the adrenaline. I was back on the bag at Winsford boxing, back in Nigel's session hitting Clive, cycling from Jonathan and Jodie's in care, stood in front of Wenzel as he counted down from 5 to 1. And then Alan sat listening to Woman of Gold and crying because his wife was dead, and I flipped. "I'm sorry!" I screamed, kicking my table over. It broke. I grabbed the mattress and slung it across the room with part of the divan base. Landed on top of my borrowed laptop and a smaller table. The chair beside my bed was in pieces where I'd wanted to destroy every bit where I'd felt the hurt inside. "I'm sorry I couldn't help you," I cried. "Pam, I'm sorry I'm not your best." I was half growling, half just making random guttural sounds while my stomach was churning with sadness and anger of 100 different emotions I'd never allowed myself to feel. "MJ, I'm sorry you're not sane." I punched the door to my airing cupboard, hearing the thud and seeing Alan hit the floor like when I was a child. I unloaded, no technique, just pure aggression. I didn't stop until my wrist gave way. I left 2 holes in the door and looked around the flat for something else to break. Half because I felt bad I'd broke the door, and half because my wrist stung and it irritated me all the more. Tears stung my face and I wiped them away to find blood. Apparently I'd split 2 knuckles. I called Angela and slumped on the floor of my kitchen. "I'm sorry," I said, bawling and catching my breath. Angela spent an hour explaining about anger and pain and how it all come together. How normal I was for getting out in a controlled way. Not the brightest of ways, but a controlled way. She had a point. She considered it a breakthrough. I wasn't sure. I was still sad. I was still hurt. I was still guilty. I'd led Pam into a relationship and walked away once I felt strong. The fact I loved her meant nothing to me. I'd really upset her by walking away, taken away perhaps her only chance. Was I to blame for her unhappiness? Fuck it, I unloaded on the wardrobe whilst Angela was on the phone. Then I apologised for being violent. Apologised for being me. Apologised for being a waste of space, useless bastard. And I stopped in my tracks. "I'm talking to myself like Wenzel again, aren't I?" I asked more to myself than Angela. "You tell me," she responded. She was right. Not only was I to tell her, I had to tell the rest of the world as well. This is hard, but it's beatable. I'm not going to be Wenzel or my mother, or talk to myself like he did anymore. I'm going to sit here and get upset until the bullshit's gone, the pain is gone. Then I'll get up. I'll get up when I'm better. I thanked Angela, who checked I was okay before she went, and then I hung up. I was okay. It was becoming evident I'd reached a new turning point in my life. I had no family or friends. I knew people at college, but they weren't friends. They didn't know anything of my past. I realised I had to make an effort at this life thing, and it was going to be hard. I looked in the tiny round mirror I'd bought from the pound shop whilst I was in my bathroom and sat down on the floor. I was there maybe 5 minutes when my electric clicked off. I had £7 to last me 2 days. I was okay for travel as I had a full Oyster card and plenty of food because I always bought too much out of habit. If I was made homeless, what would I eat? I always had biscuits, Weet-Bix and butter in the flats. If shit turned bad, I'd eat them. Now I had a choice. I still had hot water as it had been on since this morning. Did I get cigarettes? Or electric? As I sat in the bath in the dark with the ember of my roll-up dimming, I got upset again. Not because of the electric. I was still chuffed I had a roof over my head. But because I'd been apologising to everyone else earlier. Not once had I apologised to myself. Not once had I said, "I'm sorry I treated myself so badly, I didn't deserve it. I didn't deserve the years of guilt, Wenzel's beating, Mum's alcohol addiction. I didn't deserve to have my family taken away, or have MJ lie about me." When the water ran cold, I got dried and grabbed my sleeping bag. Got inside and hunkered down in the bathroom. It was the smallest room of a studio flat and therefore the warmest. The last thing I remember was staring at my reflection, telling myself to forgive myself for every wrong I'd done. I punched the mirror. It broke. Till next time, I'm Tracie Daily. Take care of yourselves and each other.